We're learning more about the gunman who opened fire at a Republican congressional baseball practice. Yesterday, social media pages reveal someone infuriated by President Trump. In public posts, he also called Republicans stupid, called them the Taliban of the U.S. His Facebook page shows he was an extreme supporter at the same time of Senator Bernie Sanders and his campaign, apparently volunteered on the senator's presidential campaign. Listen to what Senator Sanders said on the Senate floor when he heard this news.
I have just been informed that the alleged shooter at the Republican baseball practice this morning is someone who apparently volunteered on my presidential campaign. I am sickened by this despicable act, and let me be as clear as I can be. Violence of any kind is unacceptable in our society, and I condemn this action in the strongest possible terms.
Strong words indeed. Joining us now, Senator Bernie Sanders' wife, Jane Sanders. Jane, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here, Wolf.
It's an awful situation. Have you been able to verify that the shooter in this case did, in fact, volunteer with the Bernie Sanders presidential campaign?
I haven't, but his Facebook indicates that he had, along with tens of thousands of other people. That's neither here nor there. People have volunteered and supported various candidates. This is completely unacceptable. This is not the answer. Violence is never the answer. Wolf, you know, Bernie and I have been very vocal about the politics of personal destruction, and this is it to the extreme. This is not okay, and it's certainly not what Bernie preaches. We've had rallies with 1.5 million people. There was not one incidence of violence, either at the rallies or afterwards. So this is a person that it was troubled and certainly not indicative of his supporters.
And certainly full of a lot of hate, as we saw from some of those Facebook postings. Is there a chance, Jane, that you or the senator ever met with him while he was volunteering out there on the campaign trail at an event or a rally? Do you have any recollection at all?
No, I mean, as I said, we met with millions of people and certainly worked rope lines. I've never seen him, but he may have shown up on a rope line. I have no idea.
Since the shooting, there's certainly been a lot of talk about the type of language that a lot of the politicians are using. I want to play something for you that your husband said while talking to an audience of progressives this past weekend. Then we'll discuss. Listen to this.
Today in the White House, we have perhaps the worst and most dangerous president in the history of our country.
With hindsight, does he go too far in speaking like that about the president?
I don't think so, Wolf. I think what's interesting is that was at the People's Summit, and what I noticed on the weekend was that without any prior discussion, Roseanne DeMoro, Nina Turner, Van Jones, Bernie, and I all spoke about being careful and being involved with our policies and with our facts, but not engaging in the politics of personal destruction, that we believed in civil discourse. Nina was saying hard on issues, soft on people. Van Jones was saying, I don't care who you voted for. What we care about now is where do we stand. Now, dangerous, I mean, when you throw 23 million people off of health care without even a hearing, that's dangerous to those 23 million people. We have to be able to discuss the issues without demonizing the opponent. And honestly, Wolf, I think the media needs to look at itself as well. The media, it characterizes every conversation as an adversarial one. Your job, the media's job, I think, is to illuminate the facts, not fan the flames. And the media continues to cover the latest scandal, the latest back and forth, but not the issues so much.
But let me interrupt, Jane. With all due respect, if a president or a senator or someone of authority is making very, very strong statements, you want us to simply ignore those statements? If there's a social media post, a tweet, and the president says something really, really strong, or Senator Bernie Sanders says this is the worst and most dangerous president in the history of our country, do you want us to censor those words as part of the news media? What are you suggesting?
No. Well, I'm suggesting that just like the Democrats and the Republicans and the independents and the progressives are all thinking about what happened in this presidential race, that the media needs to do some self-reflection as well.
The media is doing a lot of I can assure you, we're doing a lot of self-reflection. We're always looking back. We're learning lessons. We want to make sure that as the first draft of history, we get it right. When we make a mistake, we certainly always correct it as quickly as possible. This is not a perfect science by any means, but you know, it's you hear a lot of criticism of the mainstream media, Jane, from the conservative elements, from the right wing. We're getting a lot of criticism from the left wing, from the progressives, people like you as well. It underscores that we're trying to do as responsible a job as we possibly can, and we certainly aren't going to try to censor very strong statements from people of responsibility.
I agree, Wolf. I'm not. What I'm saying is that during the presidential election, if I were a Republican running, I would have had a fit. I would have been so upset because every day was covered with the latest terrible thing that candidate Trump said. And when Marco Rubio said some silly things, he got attention for a couple of times. He backed off and he said, "This is not the attention I want." I just think that we need to focus on the issues and recognize, yes, we're going to have spirited debate on issues. We just started the Sanders Institute, and we believe that an informed electorate demands civil discourse and real discussion and bold thinking. So I hope that this does not make people think, well, we can't disagree on issues, we can't take spirited stands. That is not healthy for our democracy. What we need to do is to focus more on the issues. And you know, I've been telling you that forever, since every time we talk, I'm saying let's focus on the matter at hand rather than who said what. My hope is that, you know, we believe at the Sanders Institute that a democracy, a vital democracy, requires an informed electorate.
Yeah, and we saw the words from a former state senator, Nina Turner, working at your institute. Both sides need to look in the mirror. We have to decide what kind of language we are going to use in our political discourse. The only reason I point that out is because the language that Senator Bernie Sanders said about this president, the worst and most dangerous president in the history of our country, has generated some reaction. You understand that when a sitting senator makes that kind of accusation against the sitting president of the United States.
Well, but he didn't. It wasn't just a soundbite, Wolf. He talked about oligarchy and authoritarianism and democracy.
And what he's saying
basically,
basically,
words, but back them up with the rest of the paragraph and recognize that
you believe that this president is worse,
to deal with this.
From your perspective, worse than Richard Nixon?
I think these things. Right now, we're at a political crossroads. I think that we are very concerned, a lot of people are very concerned about us becoming an oligarchy. I am concerned that DAs across the country are fired. The FBI chief is fired. There are concerns about authoritarianism. There are concerns about democracy. We have veterans that have fought and died for our democracy. If we can't call attention to undemocratic action, that's not good. We need to have free speech. We need to have spirited discussion. We need not to make it personal or demonize people. I mean, members of Congress, that's one of the concerns I have, again, with the media, is that members of Congress of all stripes are caricatured as fools or demagogues or terrible people, and they pay a price for that. I don't think you understand what it takes to be in public service.
I don't think we do that, Jane
today.
Sanders. A robust democracy needs a free media, needs a robust media. That's what we're doing.
Yes.
Responsibly, accurately. There are elements out there that aren't doing that, but we certainly are. Jane Sanders, as usual, a good conversation. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Wolf. Bye-bye.
Just ahead.